Put simply, housing in our two biggest cities has become unaffordable for more of the working population at the same time as government drops the ball on public housing.
And Sydney's median house price has just climbed to a new record $1.7 million. This is the graph.
1,000 homes have been removed from Melbourne's rental market as rising costs force landlords to sell up.
What if I told you the great Australian dream is a lie? That the very foundation of our nation's wealth, the housing market, is nothing more than a giant Ponzi scheme. A house of cards built on a mountain of debt, and it's about to come crashing down like a wombat crossing a highway. This isn't a scare campaign, mate. This is a mathematical certainty. We're going to show you the proof, the numbers that the government, the banks, and the media don't want you to see. We're going to expose how the entire system is rigged tighter than a drum, how it's designed to make a small group of people incredibly rich at the expense of everyone else. And we're going to show you why it's mathematically impossible for this circus to continue. So if you're one of the millions of Australians who's been locked out of the housing market, if you're struggling to pay your mortgage, or if you just have a nagging feeling that something is as rotten as a dead fish in the sun, then you need to watch this video. This is the story of the great Australian housing Ponzi scheme, and it's a story that will change the way you look at our country forever. Before we expose the dirty secrets of the housing market, a quick word. If you believe that our country is being run for the benefit of a corrupt few, if you believe that the system is rigged against ordinary Australians like a casino game, then you need to join our Patreon. We're the resistance, the ones who are exposing the lies and the corruption that the mainstream media is too chicken to touch. The link is in the description. Join us and help us fight for a country that works for all of us, not just the wealthy elite who think they own the place.
The housing and rental crisis is out of control.
So what is a Ponzi scheme? It's an investment fraud that pays existing investors with funds collected from new investors. There's no real investment, no real value being created. It's just a game of musical chairs. And when the music stops, someone is left without a chair. And that's exactly what the Australian housing market has become. It's a system that's about as sustainable as a chocolate teapot. Let's look at the facts, and they're more shocking than finding a huntsman spider in your shower. The demand for housing from Australians is zero. That's right, zero. Our fertility rate is 1.63 and dropping faster than a lead balloon. We haven't been above the replacement rate of 2.1 since 1976. So if there's no natural demand for housing, why are prices still going through the roof like a rocket? Because the demand is artificial. It's being created by a mass immigration program that's bringing in hundreds of thousands of people every year. We have 2.4 million people in this country on temporary visas. We have 800,000 international students, which is 12% of the entire global international student population. In some parts of Melbourne, international students consume 24% of the available rental properties. In Sydney, it's 15%. This isn't an accident, mate. This is a deliberate policy designed to prop up the housing market like a drunk at a pub. It's a policy that's making a small group of people very, very rich, while ordinary Australians are being pushed to the margins, like spectators at their own funeral.
Real estate is pushing Aussies into dangerous levels of debt, whilst kneecapping the high street by sucking up discretionary spending.
So why is this happening? Why is our government deliberately creating a housing crisis? Because everyone is in on the Ponzi, mate. The media, the banks, the big corporations, they're all benefiting from this rigged system. It's a conspiracy of the powerful that's tighter than a fish's backside. Let's start with the media. Domain is owned by Fairfax and REA is owned by News Limited. These two companies control the entire property advertising market like they own the joint. They make billions of dollars from the housing churn. That's why you'll never see a negative story about the housing market in the mainstream media. It's all property porn. All the time. They're not journalists. They're real estate agents with a press pass and about as trustworthy as a politician's promise. Then there are the banks. The big four banks have one product: residential mortgages. They've lent so much money to Australians that we're now one of the most indebted nations on earth. Our household debt to GDP is a staggering 112%. The only way the banks can keep growing their profits is by bringing more people into the country to take on more debt. They're not just financing the Ponzi scheme. They're the architects of it, and they're about as concerned with your welfare as a dingo is with table manners. And it's not just the banks. The entire ASX 100, with the exception of the mining companies, is dependent on population growth, like a junkie depends on their next fix. Construction companies, insurance companies, airlines, retailers, they all need more people to sell their products to. They're all addicted to the drug of mass immigration, and they don't care that they're destroying our cities and turning our country into a place where only the rich can afford to live.
We are selling, and sold. Congratulations.
So how does this all end? It ends with a crash, a big one, because the Australian housing market is not just a bubble, it's a Ponzi scheme. And like all Ponzi schemes, it's mathematically impossible for it to continue. It's a ticking time bomb, and the fuse is getting shorter every day, like a candle in a cyclone. A Ponzi scheme needs an ever-increasing supply of new investors to pay off the old ones. In our case, the new investors are migrants. But we can't keep bringing in hundreds of thousands of people every year forever, can we? Our cities are already bursting at the seams like a sausage in a frying pan. Our infrastructure is crumbling faster than a Tim Tam in hot tea. At some point, the music has to stop. At some point, the supply of new investors will dry up like a billabong in a drought. And when that happens, the whole rotten system will come crashing down. This isn't a prediction, mate. This is a certainty. It's a mathematical inevitability, as sure as the sun rises in the east and politicians tell lies. The only question is when it will happen. And when it does, it will be the biggest economic disaster in our country's history. It will be a day of reckoning for the politicians, the bankers, and the corporate fat cats who created this mess. And it will be a day of pain for the millions of ordinary Australians who are a casualty of their greed. And when the housing market collapses, it won't just be the property owners who get hurt. The contagion will spread throughout the entire economy like a virus. The banks will be the first to fall. They're so overexposed to the housing market that a crash will wipe them out. And when the banks go down, they'll take the rest of the economy with them. Businesses will go bankrupt. People will lose their jobs. The stock market will crash. The superannuation funds will be decimated. The Australian dollar will plummet. It will be a financial apocalypse. And it will be a crisis that will make the global financial crisis look like a picnic. And what will the government do? They'll bail out the banks, of course. They'll use our money to prop up the very institutions that caused the crisis in the first place. They'll tell us that it's for our own good, that it's to protect the financial system, but it will be a lie. It will be a transfer of wealth from the poor to the rich, a transfer of wealth from the taxpayer to the banker. It will be the final act of the great Australian heist. But don't take my word for it, mate. History is littered with the wreckage of housing bubbles like a highway after a truck convoy. Japan in the 1990s, Ireland in 2008, Spain in 2008, the United States in 2008. Every single one of these countries thought they were different. Every single one of them thought their housing market was special, that it was immune to the laws of economics, like Superman is immune to bullets. And every single one of them was wrong. Dead wrong. Take Japan. In the 1980s, their real estate market was valued at 4 times the value of the entire United States real estate market, despite being 25 times smaller. That's like saying a meat pie is worth more than a whole cow. People believed that land prices in Japan would never fall. They were as wrong as a wombat in a washing machine. When the bubble burst in 1990, it led to what they call the lost decades, 30 years of economic stagnation that Japan is still struggling to escape from. Or look at Ireland. They had arguably the world's largest housing bubble in the 2000s. House prices quadrupled in a decade, even while supply was soaring. The media was completely captured by the property industry, just like ours is today. When it all came crashing down in 2008, it destroyed their economy faster than you can say Guinness. It was a disaster that took them more than a decade to recover from. The pattern is always the same, mate. Easy credit, media hype. A belief that this time is different, and then, inevitably, the crash. The only question is not if it will happen, but when. And in Australia, with our record levels of household debt, our artificial demand and our complete dependence on the property market, the crash will be bigger and more devastating than anything we've seen before. So what can we do? We can't rely on the government to fix this mess. They're part of the problem, mate. They're about as useful as a chocolate teapot when it comes to solving this crisis. We can't rely on the media to tell us the truth. They're part of the problem too. We have to take matters into our own hands. We have to educate ourselves. We have to organise. And we have to fight back like our lives depend on it. We need to demand an end to the mass immigration program that's fueling this crisis like petrol on a fire. We need to demand a royal commission into the banking and financial services industry. We need to demand a tax system that rewards work, not wealth. We need to demand a country where housing is a human right, not a speculative commodity for the rich to play with. This is not going to be easy, mate. The vested interests are powerful. They have the money, they have the power, and they have the media on their side, like a pack of loyal dogs. But we have something they don't have. We have the numbers, we have the truth, and we have the moral high ground. This is a fight for the soul of our nation. It's a fight for a fair go for all Australians. It's a fight for a future where our children and grandchildren have the same opportunities that we did. It's a fight we can't afford to lose, because if we do, we'll be left with nothing but a country that works for the few at the expense of the many. If you're ready to join the fight, then you need to join our Patreon. We're building a movement of Australians who are not afraid to speak truth to power like a bushfire spreads through dry grass. We're the resistance, and we're not going to stop until we've taken our country back from the corrupt elite who are destroying it. The link is in the description. Join us and be part of the solution, because together we can make Australia work for all of us again. To see the latest Australian crisis, click this video here.